I'm just very excited, guys, to have this guest on a show. We are familiar with each other a little bit as we spoke previously we had a phone call with this man, had a great time talking with him. Again, he didn't have this fancy studio behind him, at that time. So this is very cool, very awesome. I love that. Again, as I said, this is just lacks the presence now and the professionalism.
No, man. Like you should see where I started. I had just a laptop in a spare bedroom with
Yeah, yeah.
like it was set up so bad. I mean, I had people telling me like, how can you have all these really important guests on your show and you're like broadcasting from a room that's got like, you know, the blinds aren't even set up and it looks so ghetto.
Oh,
So
come
yeah,
on.
man,
So you stepped
it's
up,
grown
man.
fast.
You stepped up a big time. As you see here, like, again, for some of you who are watching this and you never met Ruben, so I'm going to introduce you. I'm just going to read a little bit bio about himself. This is Ruben Greth. He has his own podcast, as you see in the background. It says Capital Raiser Show. So this is his show about raising capital, multifamily syndications, and his intention is to learn best practices from successful syndicators where you have all these big players in the game. He's the capital manager for Bakerson and does marketing, brand awareness, and capital raising for the company, who has purchased 850 units real estate in Arizona, many through syndicating apartment communities. So he originally got started in multifamily deals in Phoenix during the real estate crash. Hold on, did I just skip something? It looks like
Nah, you got it, man.
yeah. So basically, yeah, what I'm looking here in the bio, and I skipped the most important thing, because you raised 650K of joint venture money through social media to buy multifamily deals in Phoenix. That's what I wanted to say. So we're gonna be covering some great topics. I love it. During the real
Yeah,
estate
man.
crash, most important, throughout like very tough periods, he flipped all those small deals for profit, but would be a millionaire now if he kept them. So man, I got so many people saying like, if I would just kept the deals that I, sold, I would be like, but you just need to scale, right? You need to scale in the business. And he has bachelor's degree from Arizona State University in chemistry and Spanish. So I don't know if that helps you in syndication, but
I see you.
here you go. Here you go. Representing.
Arizona State, baby. Arizona State. Yeah, man, thank you so much for having me on the show, man. I'm so excited to talk about raising money. And I'm no crazy, like really brilliant individual when it comes to raising money. I started my show so that I could learn from people that know this business way
Yeah.
better than I do. And I love coming from the approach of, when I'm doing the show, I'm sitting there learning. And I think the audience also wants to learn. So we get to learn together.
Yeah.
And hopefully I ask good enough questions and make it entertaining. But man, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I love what you do with the podcast, by the way. Like very professional, having all these sophisticated people asking great questions. So like kudos to you, man. Like really great podcast, and you guys should go and check it out. Capital Raiser Show. It's available iTunes, I'm sure SoundCloud, all over the place. Just go and find it. Again, bakerson.com. That's bakerson.com. Go to the website and check the available offerings, deals, and anything that you want to know real estate. So coming back to you, Ruben, for the people, again, who are seeing you first time, maybe you can tell your story a little bit. How did you ended up being in this position and learning from all these big syndicator players and, getting involved into real estate now? I mean, what happened?
Yeah, man. So I, I I really like talking about mindset on my show and how the mind develops and what the mind needs, particularly when it comes to subconscious and manifestation. But so I knew at a young age that I wanted to be in real estate. My father was an investor. He passed early, but he didn't make money as a doctor. He had a professional practice downtown Phoenix, Arizona. And he used to always tell me and take me to his properties and be like, I make my money from collecting the rents. I don't make money from the business of being a doctor. So when I graduated college, I was like, well, how do I figure this out? I didn't have any, he was no longer around and I didn't know where to get started. So I got into mortgages, found out that was not a business for learning how to invest in real estate, rather just how to become a sales professional.
Yeah.
And then I found a company that taught real estate education and I was going to sell their products. And one of the ways that I did that was by starting a meetup. So I'm not sure if meetup is big in Ireland, but over here we used it effectively to just get reunions together, get a bunch of people in the room. And I used to talk about real estate, not very similar to the show where I was interviewing people, not providing value myself, because I was always wanting to learn. And this guy comes up, you know, to Phoenix from San Diego with the bankruptcy and started buying all these fourplexes. And I'm like, how are you doing that, man? How are you financing this? He's like, I'm not financing, I'm raising capital for them. And then, you know, I started to try and learn about how he was just acquiring them, because I'm surrounded with all these people in this real estate education background that are declaring, yeah, you know, we teach real estate. And I was finding people outside of that community that were doing more real estate than in that community. You know, at the time, I think that company was still developing and evolving. But so I got him to agree to let me film him at his projects. And without ever asking for money, I would shoot these very raw YouTube videos. And I just put some like rap music in the background, not realizing at the time that I was creating what is now known as a thought leadership platform.
Okay.
Where you interview people and you ask them about how they did something. And then he would basically go into how he found the property, how he raise the money for it, what he was going to do to tenant occupy it, how he was going to analyze it, what he was going to do to reposition it, and how he was going to get it back on the market, and how he was going to do it very fast and effectively, you know, and how his business was evolving. And by doing this and just sharing information about what he was doing, and I ended up becoming his partner because I was effective at raising capital, just posting videos about what he was doing. And people would reach out. They're like, hey, we really like what you're doing. We see that it's an opportunity right now during the crash. You mentioned that it was a very difficult time, but it wasn't difficult if you were buying. It was difficult if you were selling. You know, people were finding stuff here, fourplexes and units in Arizona at that time for $20,000 a piece, which are now worth about 5, 6, 7 times that much. And the rents haven't really, you know, gone up too much since then. I guess maybe a little bit. They have actually. But so we would find these units, purchase them at $20,000. We'd offer people an opportunity, you know, once we would meet them, take them to the properties, have lunch with them, discuss our business model, and we'd let them touch the property, and we'd offer them an opportunity to invest with us. And a lot of times they would say, you know, I'm not ready, or whatever excuse they had. And we'd go ahead and buy it anyways, you know, and then we'd come back to them a week later, say, yeah, we're already sitting at a 50% equity position and cash flowing astronomically. And they'd be like, oh, I can't believe I missed that deal. So they would get in on the next one with us. And my partner, unfortunately, he's like, Ruben, you're so good at this. You got to do this full time, you know? So we don't need 2 people finding and acquiring deals. You focus on the marketing side of things. So I did. I focused on a couple of things we were going to do, create an email drip campaign, and then we were going to create a circuit to go travel the country, or at least locally, and teach people our business and write a book. And I even hired this producer to come fly in from out of state. He brought in a film crew, and then my partner, because he was so busy, he was so leveraged by the contractors he was trying to micromanage, that he wouldn't show up. And I had this money invested in him to grow this marketing side. And then we started getting into disagreements about him not showing up. So we ended up parting ways, and I disappeared off the block. I was nowhere to be found. I went back to corporate America and could not handle being behind a desk. So eventually I quit, took off to Mexico. Fortunately, I met a woman that turned out to be my wife down there, and then came back to the US and was like, man, all I know is fourplexes. I got to come up with a plan to buy more, right? So I wrote this vision down that I would acquire and double my portfolio, 1 fourplex at a time, until I had 32 fourplexes, or a total of 128 units. Because I knew that on the way of evolving to get that particular portfolio, I would build the equity and probably have enough cash flow to set me free financially for the rest of my life. And I approached somebody with this plan, and they said, why don't you just buy it? And I'm like, what do you mean? Just buy the 128 units right now? And I'm like, I don't know what you mean. I can't do that. What are you talking about? They're like, there's this thing, it's called multifamily syndication. It's a team sport. You don't have to do this by yourself, and you don't have the traction to go out and do this by yourself, because this is a team sport. Multifamily is a team sport. And I sat back and was like, wow, man. And I started studying it. I started going on podcasts, reading books, interviewing gurus, interviewing programs on how to be effective in multifamily syndication, how to learn it, and who to surround myself with. And in this process of interviewing people, I came across Bakerson. So Bakerson is a multifamily syndication firm here in Arizona that's purchased 860 units, like you mentioned earlier. Thanks for giving them a shout out. And I told them that I wanted to learn multifamily syndication, was interviewing them, and they turned it around on me. They said, well, why do you want to do multifamily syndication? And I'm like, well, I see, multifamily and real estate is an opportunity to self-actualize, to provide for my family and create generational wealth. And I like this tool. My father was an investor. I feel very attracted to it. If I'm ever at a closing title, like I have been back during the crash, I get a massive adrenaline rush from signing that paperwork and saying, hey, I'm an owner of real estate now. So these are all attractive qualities. And I raised money back during the crash for real estate and just through social media. And they're like, what? We need somebody like that on our team. And they brought me on board. And that's how I ended up here after a big period of time, I think 4, 5, 6 years without having any background in real estate or any time spent in real estate, better said. They brought me back on board and brought me back into this world of real estate and multifamily. And it's a very exciting place to be, man.
Yeah. Great story, by the way. It still continues, man. The journey is just started. I mean, to get
It
to the
really
place,
has.
because I'm sure you have big goals, and we're going to discuss some of those things as well. Again, I just love, to hear those stories. And again, people, I think feel the same. Would there be an advice? And if there is, what type of advice would you give for people, again, similar situation, working full-time job, again, like 9 to 5, 9 to 12, I don't know, long hours, but they're looking to get involved into real estate, either from active or passive standpoint. Like, what would you tell these type of people?
Man, the first thing I would say is know what you want, because there's so many people that go through life not knowing exactly what they want to create. They ask me questions like, hey, I like what you're doing in investing. I want to buy a house. And I'm like, well, how big of a house? And they're like, oh, I don't know. Or how much money do you want to make? Oh, I haven't really thought about that. And they don't really have any clarity of what they want to create. So the first thing actually boils back down to a word that we used earlier, which is mindset and clarity of purpose. And without those things, it's very challenging to, like, if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to end up at that destination. So I would say get very, very clear. Like, I wrote down my goal to acquire 128 units, and that goal has evolved, but the passive income that I wanted from it, which was $25,000 a month, that has not changed. And the universe, when you continuously focus and drive things into your subconscious brain through auto-suggestion and through repeating things and from praying from a place of gratitude, as if you have the things that you want to attract to yourself, and you have to have a very clear vision of what that is. Once you have that and basically project that out to the universe, and if you're passionate about it and it aligns with your higher power, then the universe will start to conspire on your behalf to get those things in place and put you in partnerships with people that can get you there. But without that vision, that will never happen, most likely. So I would say first become very clear about exactly what it is that you want, how much you want, and then somehow, some way, if it's in alignment with you, the universe will conspire on your behalf and make those things and present opportunities for that to happen. So I
Got it.
would say start there. It's all in the mind, man. Invest in your brain. But yeah, the rest of it is easy. It's semantics. It's reading. It's finding people that are in that business. Even if you don't live in the same place, same country as them, even, you can start learning from these people. Information technology, podcasts, online books, Audible, if you're an audio person, all that stuff's available to you at very inexpensive prices.
Yeah.
And then like the boot camps and the gurus, that can be an effective strategy. but it's not necessary. And I don't have any problem with it. I think if it gets you to go where you need to go, then by all means do it. But if you can find a way to be self-motivated by having clarity of thought and clarity of purpose, like they talk about in Think and Grow Rich, the book, then you can figure it out on your own. You know, if you're very passionate, all of that, all of the resources that you need are all free online or at your even bookstore, at your local library even.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and network like a madman.
Yeah,
People.
definitely. Your network is your net worth, right? So, for the
Dude,
people, again, who are watching, and again, because if you love, the mindset thing, we can go and discuss a little bit more. Because again, it comes down to that. Like, I just see the book that my wife reads. It's about, the mindset. Like, probably except these books behind me, the majority of the books that I have is going to be about the mindset. Like, all the people that I had on the show, prior to yourself, everybody's like, nobody's mentioning, the underwriting and, finding the like deal criteria, raising capital, all the parts, like everything, all of that is behind the scenes. This is the homework stuff. Like, but, all these people just painting you guys, who are watching this, the picture that it takes you to have the right mindset to go and get the deals done, to get all these people like in front of the people, like, because you will feel uncomfortable 100 million times. And, like maybe you're, that like discouraged, maybe you have too many, problems in the family, and like there could be 100 million things that, you're facing. So like having the right mindset, like in line with the purpose, like that is clear of like specifically what you want. Because what you mentioned, like to your wife, like, I don't know the story how you met, your wife, but my story was very simple. Like, I won't get you bored, guys. That will be very quick. But basically, I didn't know what I was looking for until I came down this guy, Tony Robbins, that I followed
yeah.
after some time, later, long after. And this guy said, listen, you have to be, again, clarity. So I was like, okay, what that means. And the guy said, when you're looking for your second half, for you, if you're ready for the man or wife, at that time, husband and wife, I was like, okay. So he said specifically, how does she look like, from emotional standpoint, physically, like spiritually, all of that, like very, very specific in detail.
Me
Because
too.
like same, like as your husband or wife, or deals that you're looking for, anything in life, if you're not clear about what you're looking for, you're not going to find it. Even when you're going to find it, you don't know that's the thing that you're looking for, because you didn't know exactly what you're looking for. So just getting clear about stuff, that's exactly the story. Ended like we got married. And because when I found that person, I was like, man, that's it. Because I'm clear. I knew exactly what I was looking for at that time.
I love it, man. Yeah, I studied a little bit of personal development back in 2003 when I was just leaving the world of crazy partying and stuff, and trying to focus down and become a person that focused on personal development and creating things
Mhm.
and manifesting things and using the power of attraction. And I went to this goal setting workshop, and they told me, they're like, write down your 10 most important goals in life, and I wrote down, I want to become a real estate investor. I want to attract a family. I want to get married. I want a car. I want this. I want that. I want a house. I want a thing in Sedona, property in Sedona. I want all these things. And they're like, well, circle the number one thing that if you only got that goal, what would that be? And I wrote down, get married and have a family. Yeah, that was the one that was most important for me. And they're like, if you never focus on any other goals, but they are things that you want, and you just focus on getting the one goal, which for me was my family and my wife, then all of the other ones will come naturally as a result of what you have to be and the person you have to become in order to attract and get that goal. And I didn't buy it. I was like, that's not true, man. Like, I need to be a successful real estate investor before I'm ever in position to attract a person into my life. And I was approaching it totally wrong, man. But
Yeah.
a couple of things that you mentioned was like the clarity of purpose and the clarity of the person, the description of the person you wanted to attract. And I wrote down that description, Mexican, young, dancing, sexy, beautiful with no makeup, all of those things.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
description of what she's like spiritually, the fact that she comes from a place of contribution, entrepreneurial mindset. I wrote all of that stuff and started focusing and praying for that person from a place of gratitude as if she was already in my life. You
Yeah.
know, Wayne Dyer likes to say, contemplate your surroundings as if you have already gotten them. And I did that. And I couldn't attract it for some whatever reason for many years. And there was times where I cried because I was so passionate. I could not find or connect with the right person. And I was like, it was frustrating. So, but the universe does things on God's timing, not on your timing. And, you know, I complained and cried a lot about my breakup with my real estate partner. But the truth is if I had not gone through that process, and if the universe had not set certain things up in such a way so that I would leave this country and then go into Mexico, I would never have found her. So sometimes you just got to let go and let God and have faith that the things, assuming that you really are clear about what you want to attract, that they will come to you, not necessarily the way that you want to or when you want them to, but just have faith that they will come when, you know, that happened to you. You got your wife.
Yeah.
I got my wife.
Yeah.
And then,
That's
you know,
that
what's
is
interesting?
yeah.
You know, what's interesting is once I got my wife, just like they said in that goal setting workshop back in 2003, all of the other things start coming naturally, man. I attracted a
Yeah.
real estate partner in syndication. You know, like I got, you know, not my dream car, but the car that I want right now. I live in the place. I have like dogs, freedom. I have the ability to travel, all those things. And the happiness, I guess happiness is a choice, but I feel so good now, now that I've attracted my wife. Dude,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just
You
incredible.
look happy, man. I love that. You know, your face is definitely, you know, bright, and you look like you're in the right place, you know, because that's very important. You know, like if you're not a happy person inside, or, you know, if you're not with the right person, what you said, it just like blew me away a little bit, because I went through exactly the same thing. As you mentioned, you got the list, and I went through very bad relationship. And actually, I left the country, and because of that, I found my wife. So exactly the same story as yours.
Wow.
Yeah. So, so that was crazy. So, but you know, like again, it's coming back to like being clear and just knowing things that you want. But you know, coming back to the family, like if you're with a person that like you're not happy with, it will suffocate the business. Like the business will suffer. You know, how you can go and meet all these investors or look for the deals or do whatever in the deal, you will like you will suffer. Maybe you will be happy in the moment while you, if the real estate is your thing. I guess it is, if you guys are watching, like you're pursuing the real estate dream, you know, to become financial free or whatever the goal you have. But you know, then it's going to be like you're going to be happy for a couple hours and you come back home and you're sad again. So you know, like you have to find the right partner who's going to be on the same page. Like it is super important. So I'm very happy that it happened for you. So
Yeah,
that,
man. And you mentioned something earlier, just for a second, you went through it really fast. Is your family and friends or the people that you surround yourself with maybe affecting your mindset? Because a lot of people, a lot of times when we're growing up, we don't choose the people that we're surrounded with, and they may not be of the mindset or of a place where they want to support you in leaving them or doing something different than they do in order to get what you want. And a lot of times we have to be very careful about, you know, like you said, that your network is your net worth, or the 5 people that you surround yourself with, the more the people that you become, because like attracts like. So be careful about who you want to. And if you have goals that the people that you surround yourself with are not in alignment with, man, create a new circle. And I had to go through that process too, man. I hung out with a lot of people that were drinking alcohol back in the day, and I had to leave that entire circle of influence in order to you know, find the right people to hang out with, people that were in investing, people that had successful habits, people that could elevate me, you know.
yeah,
So I always like to be I like to surround myself with people who are smarter than me. I don't like to be the smartest person in the room, and I approach my podcast that way. I always have somebody that's way smarter than me on the show, and I'm interviewing them, trying to get information from them, never trying to tell people what to do or explain how to do something, because I don't have the same track record that they do. So man, give all the power to them. They're the ones that can teach. And coming from that perspective, that learning perspective, I think makes you a little more vulnerable and a little bit more real, so people can connect with you. Because if you're
yeah,
constantly just telling people how to do something, it's been my experience that people have a hard time relating with that, so.
Definitely. Yeah, and that's why I love having people like yourself on on a show as well, because like more than real estate, I love the stories, and that's again, as I mentioned, that all the reading, analyzing the deals, running whatever, raising capital, like this is behind the scenes. This is where you sit down at home and write your goals down, and you plan and you do stuff. But like the stories, the powerful stories, just like that you mentioned, finding the wife and like whatever stuff like that, that pierces people, because they know, like they always can relate to the stories, and it's very powerful. But going towards maybe real estate a little bit,
Let's do it.
again, what will be that one piece of advice? Because you mentioned, a few things, again, reading and, changing the circle where you're surrounded. But again, there's a lot of moving pieces, particularly in real estate syndication. So what would be this one piece of advice for a person who's looking to get started specifically in multifamily?
So start learning. I mean, I guess if you're looking to get started and you haven't started yet, it's probably because you don't know how, right? So
Good
the
point.
first step would be like, hey, there's all this educational material and probably some people that or can have access to. Find people locally, wherever you are, it doesn't matter. There's got to be people that have the skill set that you want. And most of the time, I found that successful people are super excited to just find somebody else that wants to learn, because there's so many people that it's lonely along the extra mile.
Yeah.
It's you don't have you root for other people to come with you, but they just don't. They're stuck in their programming and they just go through life blindly. So when somebody is actually interested in wants to take action towards that, I think successful people love that, and if you find somebody in your local area, or even if they're not local, just reach out to them and say, hey, I'm trying to get started, do you have advice? And some people, they may not help you because they don't know how serious you are, because people don't want to waste their time. But if you can prove to them that you are serious and just keep on bugging them and hanging out and proving to them that you want to actually make something of yourself or become an investor or do the same business that they do, whatever business that is, they will start to give you their time, and they will happily do so because they see that you're hustling, that you're intrigued by this.
Definitely. So education, that's the part everybody should start off, and I
Yeah.
definitely
So
agree.
yeah.
But
So if you're talking about multifamily,
yeah,
there's lots of books. One thing that a lot of investors, including myself, struggle with is there's so much information out there. If you're looking at real estate, and then there's information and books or programs about tax lien certificates and subject twos, and then rehabs, and then seller financing and investing in notes, and then et cetera, et cetera. You just can't. You're trying to get into this industry, but you don't know. You can't pick one. And then even within multifamily, because it's a team sport, I would recommend, if you're going after something that's big, like these big apartment complexes, find one specific niche or aspect of the business that you can get good at. So in my case, I was like, I had a little bit of success raising capital back during the day. And I see that there's an opportunity where if you can become masterful at raising capital, you can provide a lot of value to other people that may have skill sets that you don't have, or in my case, that I don't have. I like underwriting and that stuff, but it's not something that I want to focus my energy on. And the finding and the acquiring of investment capital is almost, and some people do say it's a completely different business than the finding and the acquiring of real estate, or in my case, the finding and acquiring of multifamily properties. So I have a team in place that was really already good and had a track record at finding deals, analyzing deals, running the operations of the deals, but maybe was not so good at the social media side of things, the brand awareness, the raising capital, and creating that system, that investor infrastructure where you're communicating with people on a regular basis that you need in multifamily syndication. It's absolutely imperative. We were really approaching things from the mindset of, let's find a deal, and then if the deal is good enough, we can raise the capital. But what when you get into big deals, multifamily syndication, you can't have that mindset, because that may work with single family or wholesaling properties or smaller scale stuff. But when you have a deal and try and present it in multifamily syndication before having investor communications, before explaining why multifamily as an asset class is good, before explaining what your return structure is, then at that point, if you have a deal, it's too late, because you can't find somebody and explain who you are to the point where they know, like, and trust you, and then explain why multifamily is such a great asset class and all the inherent values associated to it. And then on top of that, explain what the return structure that you offer is. And then they have to understand the deal on top of that. It's too late at that point, and that's what we were finding. And that's why this show that I launched, the Capital Raiser show, has been so imperative and so crucial for our development and our evolution, because now we're learning from these people that are explaining to us, and explaining to me particularly, how they run their capital raising side of their business. And they do it through all of those things. They have the communications, they reach out, they network, they meet people, they get them to know, like, and trust them, and then explain through social media posts why multifamily is a good asset class. What are the inherent values? What are the tax benefits? Why why the cash flow is so much better in this? Why having a bunch of units in one place is more strategic than having 100 houses in different places, from a managerial standpoint.
Yeah.
And then if you can explain a good structure and create a system that allows for generational wealth for your investors, then boom, you have all of that in place before you ever have a deal. And that makes raising capital a lot easier. A lot of the people that use that strategy raise money in days. You hear about it, right? These people, they just put out a webinar and all of a sudden they raised $20 million in 6 hours. And you're like, what? That's not even possible. Like, you can't even comprehend how they do it, but it's very systematic, actually, because it's not the webinar that sells them. All these people have already been in your database for a long time before the webinar ever comes out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, great point. Definitely, I love the way you just put out, because that's what it comes down to. I mean, if nobody knows you, nobody is going to do business with you. And again, it's coming back to telling the story. I mean, who you are, what business are you running, why multifamily, and just telling the story. And again, you have to differentiate from a lot of people, because multifamily is a big space now. There's a lot of old and new players. So I mean, there was still opportunities for everybody, because I don't know statistics, how many of companies statistically they're multifamily, but I'm sure there is enough capital for all these deals to be available. But sometimes it just could look like there's a little bit getting too crowded, so go in that direction and talking maybe, some risks like getting too crowded, a lot of new people coming up in the space. And, again, saying like we are at the top of the market, and like everybody say the market is going to tank, there is recession ahead or whatever, the worst case scenario, and people getting a little bit fearful. I'm talking about the brand new people. Let's say myself, I'm looking to get involved. Maybe I have the basic, understanding, education. Maybe I have a few partners that I might be, partnering with, and maybe we have a few deals that we can put on the contract and maybe we'll get them going. But, there is a market crash coming, man. So maybe I should be concerned. Maybe I should wait it out and just, buy when it's, at the bottom. Like, what do you think about that?
Man, there's so many different directions I could go with that. But I would say a lot of it boils down to your mindset. And if there is a crash coming, let's just pretend that there is a crash coming, then just underwrite your deal or associate yourself with a partner that stress tests the apartment complexes as if the crash is going to happen. Like, I'm not going to buy a deal. And a lot of syndicators are doing this right now. They're like, I'm not going to buy a deal unless it pencils with a crash, and I'm not talking about bottom out crash like we had in 2008, but if there's a correction and they stress test in such a way so that it will still cash flow and the investors will still be safe with all of these, economic calamities that may happen, then that actually solves it. The other thing that I would say is that selecting a recession-proof investment vehicle like multifamily or storage units or RV parks or even mobile home parks, these are some of the asset classes that did survive the best, where people didn't, lose their property to foreclosure or even suffer a lot of rental loss during the last economic crash. So, when you put your money in stocks or some other types of investments, that can be a lot more dangerous than putting your money into something that's more recession proof, that's not going to fluctuate with such volatility as other investment vehicles. So I would say, there's a lot of people on the sidelines right now waiting for an economic crash, and they've been on the sidelines for the last 4 or 5 years, and they're losing out on opportunities that are happening right before them.
Yeah.
Waiting for this economic change so they can take advantage of all these people, all these new syndicators that are so hungry to get into the space, that may be underwriting aggressively, so that when they fail, when they're over leveraged, they're in a position with capital to take them. But how long are you going to wait?
Yeah,
If
yeah,
it's,
exactly.
you
You just need to get it started, right now. Because again, what happens in a down cycle? I mean, now like the equity, like the capital is available, and the deal flow is maybe a little bit. I mean, it's harder to find good deals. Like I came across a few people like on one of those Facebook groups, Multifamily something. I don't remember the name. Doesn't matter. But the guy was like, "Look, we didn't buy anything last year." I was like, because that's what's happening. I mean, it's harder and harder to find the right deals that match your buying criteria. But,
Mhm.
and when we're going to be in a down cycle, the capital won't be available. Maybe the deals will be there, but who are you going to raise the money from? Because everybody is going to be, fearful and like, man, I'm not going to invest. Look, I'm just keeping this on the side from my family, and we're looking to survive, and just run the business maybe. So
Yeah,
yeah,
not everybody.
yeah, man, it's yeah, not everybody. Yeah, not everybody,
Not
definitely. There's
everybody.
money, there's always people with money, especially in this country. It's a capitalistic country, man, and people just running the place, and there's people with that. So, but there people will be more fearful. That's what I'm saying. So
Yeah, I said the same thing to Vinny Chopra, and he busted me right on the spot. I'm like, what happens if you've run out of friends and family capital, and you still want, how do you raise more money? And he's like, dude, first of all, you got to have the mentality of money is everywhere. Money is everywhere. He even repeated it twice, because he's almost like right in front of you, auto suggesting to himself and to the audience what the right mentality is to have. And he's
yeah,
right, man.
yeah,
And that your self-talk is so important, because you're driving those thoughts that are coming right from your mouth right back into your brain. And when you say there's not enough, or there's people that are not going to invest with you, then that's exactly what you attract, man. It goes back to the power of attraction. So I learned from that, man. I try and have a positive outlook, and he's right, man. There's more money than what you said earlier. There's been deals. There's always money available to park,
yeah.
if you can convince somebody that you are
Mm-hmm.
a right sponsor, not necessarily that your deal. I think approaching people from like, how do I convert you into my investor, is the wrong approach. You always want to approach people from, hey, what are you looking to accomplish, and
Yeah,
and possibly there's a solution that I can provide you for accomplishing that. But if I'm coming at you without knowing what your needs are and trying to sell you into my deal, that's the wrong approach, man. I've had numerous people come on my show and tell me that. They're like, you need to find out how you and your business can help somebody achieve their goals first and foremost. What are their goals? Find
yeah,
out what their needs
yeah.
are, and then you can help them.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the right mindset. Like what you're saying, the way you just explained the thing, and this is the right mindset to have. I mean, when you talk from the abundance standpoint, there is two sides. I mean, in me, and I think some people might have it. There's logical side, positive side, and the negative side. And all of those sometimes just combining and saying like, "Whoa, listen." Yeah, it's true. Like you can get the capital, but if you're just fresh in a business, it might be a little bit tougher for you because again, you're missing that. There's a lot of pieces, moving in the business. So there's that. I mean, it's always going to be available, but if you're going to present the way yourself you just did right now, from that position where I'm looking to help you, accomplish your things, like what are your goals and how I can help you, with the abundance mindset, you're definitely going to win. You're always going to come out, on a good end. So, but again, there's a bad side. There's not everybody just like that. So of course, for you, it's good. You're always going to be a winner. So I'm just feeling sad for the rest. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love it.
Cool, man.
So talking about, raising the capital, and you mentioned, like there's always money available, and branding. So I would love to expand on that. What you mentioned 650K in a downturn, 2008, one of the worst times real estate has faced, and you were able to raise $650,000. So maybe you can talk about how have you created this brand awareness, and how have you been able to raise this money for the company that you work with?
Well, that track record of raising that capital is super old and outdated. And I think another topic that might be of interest, maybe we can go into this, is how to survive as the economic climate changes, right? So it's just been going uphill since then, and it was so good. And I thought it was I didn't do anything special. Like I said, I had some crappy videos with rap music playing in the background, and even with all the obstacles I placed for an investor to want to like me, the information was just too good, man. The opportunity was too great. Buying at 20,000 a unit, you're cash flowing astronomically. I wish we had just kept those deals, or at least I did. My partner was way better at raising capital than I was, and he didn't even use social media. He just reached out to people that he knew in his network.
He had
I was able to ride his coattails and share his story, and his story was powerful enough that people gravitated to it. And then when we split up, I had nobody with the story, so I had mental challenges, mental issues. Like, how do I raise capital? I don't have a story. I had roadblocks, mental blocks. I could have probably worked much harder if I had the hustle inside of me at that point in time. But maybe I wasn't ready. But raising capital and brand awareness. So there's one thing that I learned back then from a realtor, and she said, because we were trying to figure out how to launch a YouTube channel and how to get a lot of hits on it. And I've learned a couple things on the way, but she said the one most important thing was to just post every day. So I would post a video, and I was never that frequent, but I would get like to 2, 3, 4 times a week. And then the other thing that I've realized since then is people's attention is pretty short. So if you can keep the clip to 10 minutes or less, I've noticed one thing. Like, I have a podcast, and I put out the full clip on YouTube, and it gets no traction. So like when people are on a podcast, they like to absorb that information through their ears when they're working out or driving or doing other things. And what worked for me back then for raising capital is not effective today, because my branding through the podcast is not a medium that people want to watch. It's something that they want to listen to. I mean, some people are more successful at it, others. I guess it depends on how big your network is and how good your content is. Mm-hmm. But back then, man, 10-minute clips on what we were doing with some catchy music in the background worked very effectively for getting the message out. And then cross-posting on the other social media. I think back then we didn't have I didn't use LinkedIn back then. We didn't have Instagram back then.
Wow.
We just basically did it on Facebook and YouTube. Those were the two medium. And today I'm using LinkedIn a lot more. I'm using Instagram a lot more. And I still use Facebook, but the thing with Facebook is sometimes a lot of people are on there not to learn about real estate, and some people are, believe me. Like, I know Adam Adams is very effective using Facebook for marketing. But I focus primarily on using my podcast, using Instagram, and using LinkedIn, to connect with people.
Yeah, definitely. So what will be your one piece of advice? Maybe you have a favorite kind of a platform. I know you probably have it too. Again, you said you use Facebook, and now you transition to LinkedIn, using that more. So what would be your favorite kind of one? And maybe not the favorite, maybe the one that you would recommend for somebody who's kind of an entry point into this business
I
to
I
you?
have I have a great answer for you, and it's none of the above, man. It's something that we referred to earlier as thought leadership. So so first of all,
Yeah.
networking, building your database, however you're going to build it, but then having some content to provide, writing a blog. I'm not good at writing, so I don't do that, but writing a blog or having a podcast or constantly sharing information with a level of consistency and intention, that's the big thing. If you're constantly producing material, things that are compelling to people, things that you find compelling, and you're broadcasting that out via social media, via your newsletter, via communications, via MailChimp, via whatever communication style you have. But the more that you post that, you're being a thought leader within your own investor database. But if you can actually take that and then broadcast it on social media, that's lots of power. I think the decision, Ellie Perlman said it on my show, it all starts with the thought to become a thought leader. And
Yeah.
that can be done through blogging, writing articles, posting on even bigger pockets or other real estate forums. And for me, it's LinkedIn and my podcast. Those are my forms of thought leadership. And it used to be scary, man, to consider myself a thought leader. I was just like Joe Six Pack, on the street corner of my house, hanging out with my wife with no track record and no background. How could I potentially be a thought leader? So, but I knew one thing was that, like, from my meetups, I can interview people and have people that are authorities, and then people, for whatever reason, because you're the one in charge, give you the credit.
Yeah.
So between that and the YouTube channel, thought leadership doesn't have to be you being the leader.
The
It can
best.
be
Yeah.
just it can be you interviewing
Yeah.
people, and that makes you a thought leader, even though you're not the one that's creating the thoughts. So
Exactly.
that's
Exactly.
very powerful. Become a thought leader is number one. And then in terms of which platform, I guess all of them. I asked, let's see, I interviewed Neil Bawa, and I'm like, what's the best marketing form? He's like, well, it's a combination of all of them. You have to use all of them. The more hits that you have, the more places that people see you, the more effective your campaign is going to be. If you're just like focused on the best one, LinkedIn, and not on the rest, then that makes you less effective. So I would say
Yep.
it's a combination of using all of them.
Yeah. 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 You need leverage, definitely using them all. But again, like some of you are watching this and thinking like, my God, it's all sounds good on the surface, but behind the surface, there's a lot of work. Like,
Man, it's
man, how I'm
scary.
gonna
It is
when
a
I'm
lot
gonna
of
go
work.
and look at the deals, man? Come on, we're not even starting in the real estate. Like, it's work. That's what it is. I mean, it's business and it's work. Like
But
what you
yeah,
said.
determine what part is going to be yours. I mean, because
Yeah.
there's people, is it going to be investor relations and meeting and talking to people and brand awareness and social media and raising
Yeah.
capital? Or are you going to focus on, finding and acquiring deals and dealing with brokers and meeting people that help you find and acquire real estate? What is going to be your specialty? You can't do it all by yourself, man. Select one part,
Exactly.
or interview a team of investors that may have something, and try and find out where they may lack and see if you can provide that for them,
Mm.
or decide what it is that you gravitate to and then offer that to people, or try and find people that may need that specific service. In my case, brand awareness and raising capital.
Yeah. Yeah. It got it because it's super important. Because I love that you brought that up. Because again, like I know number of people in my head even right now, I see their faces and they're like, man, like I'm just starting in the business. It could be a construction, multifamily, whatever, and they're like, like I'm gonna do everything by myself. Like, man, are you talking about starting the business or just being a solo person? Like, what are you trying to be? Because like what you mentioned, Neil Bawa, I know he's big into delegating tasks to VAs and doing
Yeah.
all of that to Philippines. I mean, there's hundreds of ways that you can, delegate tasks to, freelancers, people who write blogs. They can like do the video for you, like Instagram posting. Like, we do that work again. So, but you can delegate these, and instead of focusing of these, boring things, which for some of you who are watching maybe think they're boring for you, maybe that's not what you would like to do. Instead of that, underwriting deals or go and finding, the deals, raising capital, like delegate these tasks, don't be afraid to pay the money, like for some people, because again, of course, do due diligence. If you like the company, not like move on and find that, but like pay the money, because like without that, how are you going to expand the business? Like don't try to be the solo guy. Like I'm going to do everything by myself. Like it's stupid. Like I don't like that at all. So
That's a good point.
yeah, what about the mentorships? You know, because I know there's a lot of like 6-figure, 5-figure mentors around there. I mean, good people. I mean, some of those people are sophisticated, have the business, they're active in the business, you know, but the people who are looking to get involved into the business, again, should they consider that, or, you know, what will be the option for them if not that? Like, what are your thoughts about getting a mentor?
My thoughts are explore it, particularly if you don't have any money. You might think to yourself, well, that program costs $25,000. I'm not even going to look at it. Well, dude, just by interviewing them and finding out who the different companies are that offer things and asking them, first of all, they can't sell you because you're not qualified to buy. So why not interview them? Find out what it is that they teach, and then you can kind of gravitate to the people that they have taught, and then maybe find out who their students are, and then look for opportunities to work with them, because they may have already taken that knowledge and started applying it. But some of the programs, the really cool aspect of them is they come with communities, and those communities may be interested in providing you some of the things that you lack. I'm almost interested in going to a program just to surround myself with the people that have capital within that. That's the Think Multifamily program. I'm pretty excited about those guys, although I'm not sure that I'll ever sign up with them. I highly respect those guys. And then there's certainly ones, even from a coaching perspective, that they don't even teach real estate, but they coach you up in whatever it is that you want to do. That's not a bad option either. But yeah, I think those are great avenues, man. I don't know that you need it. You could probably find somebody and align with them and provide value to them and figure it out. Or even like people need work done that's very tedious. And if you can offer them to be an intern and then they teach you a little bit of real estate on the side, I think that could be very effective. But yeah, don't be like, I can't afford that, so I'm not even going to talk to him. You know, it's almost like from a lawyer perspective, you know, for people that are creating tax sheltered structures and LLCs and businesses, you know, on a very high level, a lot of people will say, well, I can't, you know, I don't need that right now, so I'm not even going to bother to learn it. Well, learn it now, and then as you grow and become more successful, then you can apply it. But if you don't have the knowledge of it, you'll be starting from a place where you may have to rip it down if you build it the wrong way, going from the beginning. So
Definitely.
I don't know if that answers your questions, but yeah, I definitely say
does, yeah.
go reach out to a bunch of people, interview them, and then find out people that are already, take them out to lunch or ask them some questions. See if you can get them on the phone and find out more about how they got started or what they may need, or if you can intern for them.
Yeah. That's solid advice. You know, like that's the first one probably I heard somebody saying, go and get this potential mentor on a podcast interview him, ask a bunch of questions. Again, you're coming from a very creative, you know, place. So I definitely love that, man. Thanks for the advice. I think it's going to help a lot of people. You know, it's still going to be scary because some of you, again, who are watching, maybe you don't have a podcast, but this is one of the free ways that you can, again, learn the business. You can ask any question that you want. So you're getting free education on the spot. Again, you're expanding your network. More people are going to know you, but more what's most important, more people are going to go, like they're going to know who you are and you're going to know them. So, cause that's what important. Like for me, this is number one, you know, like, I don't know what you guys think. Maybe you can post that in the comments. Like, but when I brought up this question a couple of times, maybe I'll bring this, cause we probably will know the answer by now. Cause I kind of said it. But if there will be 100, like $1 million here on the table and 100 friends, like million friends, any day, million friends, like all over the world, if they're, you know, happy, they're wealthy, you know, I'll pick up like every day, because your network, like imagine having all these people, like if you're like raising capital or you just travel places and you're like, oh, I'm coming to Switzerland just to ski on the mountains. Oh, sure, Martin, please come in, you know, and just not because the free rent that they're going to provide, but the connections, man, connections and the memories. Because at the end of the day, we are all gonna go at some point of a time, and when you're gonna go, you're not gonna remember, man, I remember I closed the deal, a 250 unit deal. It will be like, man, did you remember we had these great times with my wife or husband, and we traveled these places? Because that's what, at the end of the day, that's what's important, the memories and all the life experiences. So that's what I like. That's in my opinion, you know, people and friends are, you know, the most important thing in the world. So again, for the people who are watching thinking like, man, mentoring is a good thing. I know, you know, you can get a lot of valuable things from those people, even though they charge 6 figures or whatever. You know, I got a person, he said $75 an hour. I mean, you know, there's different, you know, high end and low end, but, you know, maybe I don't have the $75, man. Maybe Ruben can recommend me 3 business books because I can scrape $20 and go and grab me a few books on Amazon. So what will be those 3 business, personal development, real estate type of books that you would recommend?
If we're going personal development, I like The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer. It talks about manifestation and using intention to create things. It talks about ego, a lot of things that on a spiritual level I really resonate with. A lot of people say Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which to me now makes a lot of sense. But when I first read it, it's just like I didn't understand it, man. But I read another one of his books that I'll recommend right now. It's called The Master Key to Riches. I read Think and Grow Rich first, didn't understand it, and then read Master Key to Riches, and that one I resonated a little bit more. And then once I absorbed that one, I went back and read Think and Grow Rich, and I was more easily able to absorb it. So I think the obvious one is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That one's pretty mind-altering and belief-shattering in terms of liabilities and putting things in your assets that provide cash, not take cash out of your pocket. And I think there's one, the Cash Flow Quadrant. And here's another one that I highly, highly recommend, although it's not fantastically interesting or easy to read. I guess it's easy to read, but it's not super interesting. Unless you really focus on the concepts that it teaches, then it becomes extremely fascinating. And that's called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. That one really talks about placebo effect and the power of the brain to attract things into your life that you may not believe you're able to attract on a very scientific level. So I recommend those books.
Man, I'm just looking up on my phone currently because I know I read one of his books, and I'm very happy that you reminded about this man. Because I remember I read one of his books. I can't remember what was the name. I thought I'm gonna find it because I thought you're gonna go longer with your answer, but that's perfectly fine because, like what I'm saying, great books, like all these books, and I love because the way you talk and the way you present yourself, like calm, and people can sense that, like calm personality, sense of direction, you know, like very like elegant, and you know, it's like I love it, man. It's like, yeah, it's a great vibe, man. Yeah, it's a great vibe, definitely, and people can resonate with that, and you know, it's good. But that's what it takes, because you know, like I'll just be honest, like before we spoke, like that was longer, like you were a little bit different, and now again, like doing podcasts and just doing stuff and just implementing all the personal, like I can sense that, like that was not that long ago, actually. I mean, you were in a good place then, but now I can feel like, whoa, like this man is like really expanding his presence, like, and he just really like owns what he is, and now he has like sense of direction. And I mean, look at the studio, for Christ's sakes. I mean, look at this and compared to that. So
hey, dude, I started a spare bedroom with just a laptop, no microphone even, so it can grow fast as long as you put the right people on your show and provide some content.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just to show you the power of self-belief, you know, personal development, having the vision, the clarity, and just going towards your goals. And, you know, that's going to bring you up a big time. So, you know, talking about the goals and vision and all these things, again, 2020, kind of fresh, brand new year. So maybe you can share a few business, personal goals that you're looking to accomplish for this year.
Man, us personally, man, what we are focused on right now, and particularly me and a couple other people, is the creation of this thing that we call the capital raiser machine. And essentially, because of our previous business model of raising capital, it was so ineffective once we got big. And in order for us to scale, we have to tear everything down and rebuild it. So that's what we are focused on right now. What I would like to have is about, you know, 1,000 to 2,000 people database and an infrastructure where we're effectively communicating, and somebody in-house that's staying top of mind, present, you know, at least once a month on a phone call, or at least a mail campaign where people are constantly hearing about us. And honestly, man, your services, or somebody that could provide services like you, would be a tremendous benefit, because I do all of my own video editing, and that's super time consuming. It prevents me from connecting with people. And that connecting with people is a job all its own. If I can start to get that automated and outsource some of that information, I think those would be my huge goals. They're not even financial goals. I would say on a longer term scale, we're very much in alignment. The people in this company, Bakerson, we want to own about 10,000 multifamily units.
Wow,
So
big goal.
if we can, you know, get the system in place to build the foundation, then we'll get there. I mean, particularly with the amount of connections that we're making through the podcast. I mean, even if we're just learning from them and don't partner with them, which we're creating a lot of synergies with.
You're getting exposed, You're getting exposed. You're leveraging their network at the same time. So maybe, and some of those people, again, who maybe they are in their network and maybe they're more sophisticated and established, having more assets under management, but they just not resonate with them, some of those people, and they're just going to go towards you or some other people. And I mean, you know, because it's again, that's what I'm saying, like, because the way you present yourself, maybe so, like, some people will resonate with you rather than with Bob, who's just, you know, like pushing all the time, you know, like people talking like Grant Cardone, you know, the hat. And people, like some people, they just don't do the business because of that, because he just hammers on people all the time. So some of the people might be coming towards you and saying, like, listen, like, I like you because you're calm and the way you present yourself. So what you're saying, yeah, it's basically there's money for everybody, and I'm sure you're going to reach the goal. But what you said, the key words, systems in place. So how fast you can put that in and just, you know, delegate the tasks and just focus on the things that matter, which is like doing the podcast, getting yourself out there and just building the network, of course, with the leverage of social media. So before, again, we wrap up, I want to just big thank you, man. It's been a true pleasure to have you on. I mean,
yeah, it's been phenomenal, man. This is probably the best conversation I've ever had, because I get to talk instead of, you know, ask people questions.
That's been in a long time, right?
I've been on a couple of podcasts, and like the first couple ones are scary. You don't know what you're talking about, and I'm glad that I got those first couple out the way, because now I can be a little bit more natural with you and just.
Yeah. Oh, you're a natural on the podcast. I'll tell you. I don't know if there's a natural podcast host out there, but you're one of them, I'm sure. Because if the way you do the interviews, the way you present yourself right here, I imagine, you know, because I've seen a couple of them, you know. So of course, guys, I'm going to put some links down below that you can go and subscribe to the channels, follow on iTunes, of course, and just see the way he interviews people. I mean, it's mastery, man. You're getting to these levels. It's beautiful to watch, man. So I'm a fan, definitely.
Thanks, man, dude. Don't go and listen to my first couple episodes, because I sucked. You know, I was like, every other word, and what do you think of, and then the other thing was, I like trying to read questions, and when somebody would stop talking, I'd have to break this awkward silence and then read figure out a way to transition into the next question. I threw that all out, dude, and just started asking people questions based off of what they were saying. So that's a lot easier for me.
Yeah, that definitely makes the conversation to flow more kind of natural. And then you discover those more in-depth questions that you want to ask, instead of just, what's your name? What's their underwriting? Like, kind of same, you know, how many questions are there that you can ask, actually, you know, like a real estate investor? There's like kind of the same questions, but if you make it personal and you ask those type of personal questions, just like you said, you know, just getting rid of those written questions and just asking those on the spot, that makes the conversation gold. And that's why your podcast is became the way it is right now. So, and I definitely recommend people go and check it out, and you're going to learn a lot about investing, and first of all, how to do a proper podcast, to have some guest show hosts, or people on your podcast as well. So what will be the social media platforms, coming back to that people can go and engage with you, ask questions, investing, how to create a podcast, how to raise money, real estate investing, what those would be?
People can reach out to me. There is another person on this planet named Ruben Greth, and he lives in Toronto. So if you find someone in Canada with that name, that's not me. But I'm on Facebook, Ruben Greth, on Instagram as what is it called? It's the form. I don't know. You find me at Capital Raiser. That's where you can find me.
You don't have to worry, man.
Ruben Greth?
You don't have to worry. All the links are down below, guys. You know already.
Sweet.
Like just click the links and you're gonna find him. Like I did all the work for you, so we don't have to worry about that. But he's available all over the place, and that's what matters. So go and get him.
Check us out on our website too, at Bakerson, Bakerson.com, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Or follow us as a company on Instagram, Bakerson Capital, or find us on Instagram, or I should say on Facebook and LinkedIn. We're also under Bakerson there.
Got it. Again, everything is included. All you mentioned and more is included in the links down below. Again, guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. It's been a true pleasure, like I told you, to have you on the show today and just discuss. It's probably one of the best shows I had so far. I mean, and I had some pretty big players in the game, but I love what you're saying about, the mindset and just getting, focused and having that sense of direction and like clarity, which is like the key in business and life. That's what it comes down to, you find your wife and you just, find the most important thing in life, and it just goes from there, and like those stories, I just love it, and I think, people can resonate with that, and they feel exactly the same, way that I do. So really appreciate you, being on the show.
Right on, Martinez, man. It's been a blast. Thank you so much for having me on the show, man. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you, guys. So you already know what to do. Click like, subscribe to the channel. Of course, go and check it out, the Ruben's YouTube channel as well, iTunes, all the stuff. And, it's a true pleasure to have you on. And guys, as always, I'm just going to see you on the next episode. So appreciate it.
Yeah, man. And if you ever want to go see my old crappy rap videos that I used to raise $625,000, you can find us at Phoenix Real Estate Investors on YouTube. Those are kind of funny, but still relevant actually to today.
That is awesome, man. That's a good finish off for the podcast, man. I'm just curious to go and find it now myself. So,
all right, man. Enjoy
Awesome.
the rest of your day, dude. Thanks again.
Thank you very much. Take care, man.